Part number one of Edgar Allan Poe's short story. Well, it's short, but you're gonna see that it's not that short. Okay. The Fall of the House of Usher. So in your copies, you're gonna go to the one, The Fall of the House of Usher. That's the one we're gonna be doing with. Okay. So volunteers. Volunteer. Go, go.
It was a dark and soundless day near the end of the year, and clouds were hanging low in the heavens. All day I had been riding on horseback through country with little life or beauty, and in the early evening I came within view of the house of Usher.
So this guy, our narrator, he's gonna be on top of what?
Of a horse.
Of a horse. He's riding a horse, and he's gonna come face to face with what? The house of Usher. A house. Go ahead.
I do not know how it was, but with my first sight of the building, a sense of heavy sadness filled my spirit. I looked at the scene before me, at the house itself, at the ground around it, at the cold stone walls of the building, at its empty eye-like windows, and at a few dead trees. I looked at this scene, I say, with a complete sadness of soul which was not healthy, earthly feeling.
Okay, the house is a house that is going to impact the narrator. Is going to give a sense of sadness. What he said about the windows. The windows, the eye-like windows. Why do you think he's saying an eye-like windows? If they have eyes, what happened with the windows? It's like if the windows of the house were looking at the narrator. And also he's going to talk about the dead trees that are around the house. Very important. Part number one, we can divide it into three parts. Part A, the description of the outside of the house. That could be part A of the first part. Go ahead.
There was a coldness, a sickness of the heart, in which I could discover nothing to lighten the weight I felt. What was it? I asked myself. What was it that was so fearful, so frightening in my view of the house of Usher? There was a question to which I could not find no answer. I stopped my horse beside the building, on the edge of a dark and quiet lake.
So we have a what? We have a quiet lake next to the house. So if it's dark, you have dead trees, you have a house that it looks like a haunted house. The atmosphere around the house is not very good. This guy's on a horse, and this guy's gonna meet the house, and he's gonna be right there standing outside. Right.
There I could see reflected in the water a clear picture of the dead trees, and one of the house and its empty eye-like windows. I was now going to spend several weeks in this house of sadness, this house of gloom.
So this guy's gonna spend several weeks in the house. Is this house a hotel or something? We don't know. But we know that the narrator, and we're calling this guy the narrator because they haven't said the name yet, is gonna spend several weeks inside the house. He's gonna sleep there. Go ahead.
Its owner was named Roderick Usher.
The name of the owner is Roderick Usher. Roderick Usher. That's the owner of the house. So we have the narrator, we got Roderick Usher, and we also have a horse. All right.
We had been friends when we were boys, but many years had passed since our last meeting.
So right there you see why this guy is here. We have been friends long time ago, but we haven't seen each other like a long time ago.
A letter from him had reached me, a wild letter which demanded that I reply by coming to see him. He wrote of an illness of the body, of a sickness of the mind, and of a desire to see me, his best and indeed his only friend.
Okay, apparently the narrator is the only friend of Brother Usher. This guy's gonna write a letter to the narrator, ask him to come to the house because there's a mental illness, an illness of the mind, and there's a body illness. Later on, we're gonna know who has a body illness and who has a mental illness. Go ahead.
It was the manner in which all this was said. It was the heart in it, which did not allow me to say no.
So this narrator is gonna grow concerned. He's worried about this Roderick Usher and say, you know what? I need to go to the house. I need to help this guy. Go ahead.
Although as boys we had been together, I really knew little about my friend. I knew, however, that his family, a very old one, had long been famous for its understanding of all the arts and for many quiet acts of kindness to the
So
poor.
these guys are gonna like art. These guys are gonna like art, are gonna like music, are gonna like books, are gonna like paintings, and you're gonna see all of this portrayed when they enter the house, when he enters the house. Go ahead.
I had learned too that the family had never been a large one, with many branches.
So this family, the Ushers, are not a lot. There's not a lot of Ushers around. Okay.
The name had passed away always from father to son, and when people spoke of the house of Usher, they include both the family and the family home.
When you talk about the house of Usher, you're gonna talk about two things. Number one, the house, the structure, the house, and the family. So the family Usher is gonna be divided in the house of Usher, the house, and the family. Very important, those two.
I again looked up from the picture of the house reflected in the lake to the house itself. A strange idea grew in my mind. An idea so strange that I tell it only to show the force of the feelings which laid their weight on me. I really believed that around the whole house and the ground around it, the earth itself was different. It was not the air of heaven.
So you see that. Remember, we're in page 2 already, and he's still describing the outside of the house, the atmosphere outside of the house. It's like, for example, when you watch like horror movies, and you see like the house, and that person is coming next to the house, and you're watching the house, and the camera's in the house, and you're looking at it. All of that. That's why the narrator is doing right now, describing the house.
It rose from the depth, decaying trees from the gray walls, and the quiet lake. It was a sickly, unhealthy air that I could see, slow moving, heavy and gray. Shaking off from my spirit what must have been a dream, I looked more carefully at the building itself. The most noticeable thing about it seemed to be its great age.
That means that the building is what? The house is what? Old. It's an old house. Very important, old house.
None of the walls had fallen, yet the stones appeared to be in a condition of advanced decay.
Okay, when it is advanced decay, for example, when a person dies, that person is going to begin to be in a sense of decomposition. It's going to what? It's going to decay. It's going to rot. It's going to stink. That process, that's decay. Right.
Perhaps the careful eye will have discovered the beginning of a break in the front of the building, a crack making its way from the top down the wall until it became lost in the dark waters of the lake.
Very important. The house had what?
A crack.
A crack at the bottom. Very important, that crack. That crack is going to go at the top of the house, and that crack is going to go, and it's going to get lost in the lake. That crack is super important. Correct. That crack, very important.
I rode over a short bridge to the house.
So he's gonna ride his little horse over a bridge.
A man who worked in the house, a servant, took my horse, and I entered.
So first of all, a servant is going to attend them, is going to get the horse, and he's going to enter the house. So now this is going to be the entering of the narrator inside the house.
Another servant, of quiet step, led me without a word through many dark turnings, to the room of his master.
Okay, when you see these horror movies that someone opens the door and it's a servant and that servant doesn't speak and attends you, like walks with you around and it doesn't speak, that's an example of that. First servant is going to grab the horse, is going to introduce him to the house, and second servant, that's the one that is going to take him to his master. Go ahead.
Much that I met on the way added, I do not know how, to the strangeness of which I have already spoken. While the objects around me, the dark wall coverings, the blackness of the floors, on the things brought home from long-forgotten wars.
So this house is going to look like a museum inside. You're going to see that it's going to describe the wall, the floor. So he's starting, remember, part number 1 is going to describe A, the house on the outside, B, the house in the inside. Go ahead.
Well, these things were like the things I had known since I was a baby. While I admitted that all this was only what I had expected, I was still surprised at the strange ideas which grew in my mind from those simple things. The room I came into was very large and high.
Describe the room now.
The windows were high and pointed at the top, and so far above the black floor that they were quite out of reach.
The windows also are described.
Only a little light, red in color, made its way through the glass and served to lighten the nearer and larger objects. My eyes, however, tried and failed to see into the far, high corners of the room. Dark coverings hung upon the walls. The many chairs and tables had been used for a long, long time.
Also, it's going to describe chairs, tables.
Books lay around the room, but could give it no sense of life.
Remember, they like art, they like reading, so they have books inside. He has books.
I felt sadness hanging over everything. No escape from this deep, cold gloom seemed possible.
So as he enters, still the same thing. Sadness, depression, like big time inside the house.
As I entered the room, Usher stood up from where he had been lying and met me with a warmth which at first I could not believe was real. A look, however, at his face told me that every word he spoke was true. We sat down, and for some moments, while he said nothing, I looked at him with a feeling of sad surprise.
Okay, he's gonna finally meet who?
Roderick.
Usher. Okay, part number 1, I said that it was gonna be described in 3 parts. A, where?
The outside of the house.
Outside of the house. B,
Inside of the house.
inside. Now, the description of Roderick Usher. Now he's gonna describe Usher with details. Right.
Surely no man had ever before changed as Roderick Usher had. Could this be my friend of my early years? It is true that his face had always been unusual. He had gray, white skin, eyes large and full of light, lips not bright in color, but of a beautiful shape, a well-shaped nose, hair of great softness, a face that was not easy to forget.
Right there, he's describing right there the face of Usher. The hair, the eyes, nose, everything.
And now, the increase in this straightness of his face had caused so great a change that I almost did not know him. The horrible white of his skin and the strange light in his eyes surprised me and even made me afraid. His hair had been allowed to grow, and in its softness it did not fall around his face, but seemed to lie upon the air. I could not, even with an effort, see in my friend the appearance of a simple human being.
So like it's like this guy is unique. There's not a lot of people that look like Roderick Usher. Paula, continue.
In this manner, I saw at once changes came and went, and I soon found that this resulted from his attempts to quiet a very great nervousness.
this guy's going to be constantly nervous. Nervous about what? We don't know yet.
I had indeed been prepared for something like this, partly by his letter, and partly by remembering him as a boy. His actions were first quick and then super quiet. Sometimes his voice, slow and trembling with fear, quickly changed to a strong, heavy, carefully spaced, too perfectly controlled by manner. It was in this manner that he and I was now going to spend several weeks in this house of sadness, this house of grief. Its owner was named Robert. Nope. What's that?
Right. I think you jumped something there.
Yeah, I know.
Go back.
Spoke of the purpose of my visit, of the desire to see me, and of the deep delight and strength he expected me to give.
So his expectation is that the narrator is going to give comfort to Usher. Go ahead.
He told me what he believed to be the nature of his illness. It was, he said, a family sickness, and one from which he could not hope to grow better. But it was, he added at once, only a nervous illness which would without doubt soon pass away.
Okay, very important. This Roderick Usher is a hypochondriac. He's a hypochondriac.
Hypo what?
Hypochondriac. And very important. What happened with these people? Like they what?
They hear something and
They
felt.
think that they think that they're ill. They pretend. They think that they're ill, but they're not ill. That's an illness from the mind,
Hypo what?
hypochondriac, but they're not ill. Okay? Very important.
It showed itself in a number of strange feelings. Some of these, as he told me of them, interested me, but were beyond my understanding. Perhaps the way in which he told me of them added to their strangeness. He suffered much from sickly increase in feeling of all the senses.
This guy, the senses are going to be very delicate. His senses are going to be big time, big delicate. Go ahead.
He could eat only the most tasteless food, and all flowers smelled too strongly for his nose. His eyes were hurt by even a little light, and there were few sounds which did not fill him with horror. A certain kind of sick fear was completely his master.
Very important. The taste. There was some food that he could not eat. Like he could eat like several things only. Smell. Like there were flowers that affected his smell, so he had to smell like delicate flowers. So the nose, that smell, that sense of smelling was very delicate. The eyes were hurt with light. Therefore, that's when you see the curtains inside the house and how dark it looks because of the eyes of the owner, Roderick Usher. And the sounds. This guy was big time affected by the sounds. Very delicate in the hearing area. Go ahead.
I shall die, he said. I shall die. I must die of this fool sickness. In this way and no other way, I shall be lost.
So this guy is saying, oh, I'm going to die of this sickness. What sickness? We don't know that. Those nerves that he has, we don't know why he has them.
I fear what will happen in the future, not for what happens, but for the results of what happens. I have indeed no fear of pain, but only fear of its results, of terror. I feel that the time will soon arrive when I must lose my life, and my mind, and my soul together, in some last battle with that horrible enemy.
Basically, at the end of this part 1, he is going to express that fear. However, he is not fearing the present. What is his fear of?
The feeling?
Future. What will happen next? What will happen in the future, not what's happening now. And the result, the consequences of the future of what's gonna happen later on. So basically, that will be it for part number 1 of the fall of the House of Usher. So to be continued.